When you have about a dozen projects going at once, what's the big deal about adding one more? Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for the first installment of Project Tracer Rounds. And that's our 1994 Mercury Tracer LTS project that we're going to be starting up. So today, I'm just going to simply introduce you guys to the car, give you a good tour around it, show you its many flaws and what the plan is ultimately to do to this car. So pretty cool. The Mercury Tracer LTS is a pretty rare bird, honestly. You don't see a lot of these floating around. It is basically the same as the Mazda Protege 323 and the Ford Escort sedan, but it gets the Escort GT power plant, so it gets that 1.8 liter Mazda engine with 127 horsepower jammed under the hood. So this is a hot little sedan, guys. So it is obviously the luxury version too, so I'll show all the cool features that differentiate it from the other cars. But yeah, this Mercury Tracer LTS is awesome, and part of the reason it's super rare is because it has a 5-speed manual, and you see more automatics than manuals in these, if you see them at all. So let me show you this really cool car. I'm super glad I could find one, and let's try to do something with it. Let's make it nice. But anyway, let's get in the garage and check the car out. Fresh in the Auto Obsessive Garage. I guess you can still refer to this car as being fresh. Our 1994 Mercury Tracer LTS. This is a pretty rare bird, guys, I'm not gonna lie. They did have a lot of Tracers floating around. It was a pretty popular car in its heyday, I guess you could say, if it ever had a heyday. But this is the LTS example, which means it gets a really cool bonus under the hood, which we'll get into in just a second. But let's go ahead and give a tour of the vehicle, overall condition, everything else. Now, just some facts about this car. It is a 94. It is, of course, the LTS version of the Tracer. It was owned by a family for 24 years, which is really cool because they really kept up on maintenance. There are not many of these things on the road, especially in any kind of driving, working condition. So this one has, get ready for this, guys, 260,000 miles on the clock. How cool is that? And this family definitely maintained it, definitely took care of it and did all the regular maintenance when they should, timing belt, water pump, all that kind of normal jazz that you want to be doing. But time for the tour. So, given that mileage, the paint has been shot. You can see here on the hood, completely gone, and not just clear coat, it's just totally burnt up, which is unfortunate. Bumper looks okay in the front. I don't want to respray the car, and the reason being is the cost of even a cheap respray, $2,000 or so, definitely gets the price range of this car out from where I want it to be. It won't make sense financially. And also, there's all kinds of implications with a cheap paint job. I'd rather just try it myself. So we're gonna do a little homegrown body work, I'm sure. But overall, you can see the front end's pretty clean. No big dents or dings. The body overall is very straight. Love the Mercury logo there and the little vents underneath. You don't really see that until you get low. It's just kind of a cool detail. The wheels are all original and missing their center cap. So I might try to source those center caps. As you can see, these wheels are in horrible shape. Pretty good curb rashing, but just kind of like the show was, they're just really, really dirty. A lot of grain, brake dust and dirt and grime, so they're gonna need to be really cleaned. Came with really good tires. Not really great tires, but just fresh tires, which is a plus in this price range. So that's cool. Graphics are still on the side. They look better in film and in photos than they do in real life. They're kind of faded, but it's super cool. The LTS is also distinguishable. If you guys can see this red trim that goes all the way around the car, kind of like an old Golf GTI, kind of working in that red to show that it's a special car. LTSs came loaded also. I believe they all came with sunroofs, and it's power everything. So even though this car is exactly the same as a four-door Escort, this does get the GT power plant, which I keep alluding to, but we'll get under the hood and look at that in a second. It does get all power everything. So power door locks, power windows, cruise control, power mirrors. We'll go over the interior in a little bit, but overall, body's super straight. Like I said, the paint's faded pretty bad, but there's no major dings or dents, which is awesome. Look at the roof is completely dead. So we might do something to try to bring that back. You can see right here. That's what I'm talking about. All this trim will need to be painted too. That's not too hard. Same with the rear deck and spoiler. Here's that awesome badge, the Tracer LTS. I love these taillights. They're actually pretty cool looking. Here we go though. That's the badge, it's the money. Rear bumper's just got some scratches, scuffs in it. Same here. We're missing the third brake light, don't worry about that. I took it off to replace the bulb. There's our Mercury badge. We got some spots to obviously touch up. No crust on the car. There's a couple weird rusty spots. And as you can see, the trim is completely baked off. On this side, it almost looks silver white. That's very glossy silver. So we'll be doing a lot of trim painting and that helps the car. We've got your stereotypical, just like my Taurus had, that kind of rust right here at the windshield where it didn't drain properly and sat. So we'll take this trim off, and that's what we're gonna do, grind this down pretty good. And then of course we'll use a rust preventative spray, spray that down, prime, and then we'll paint it just to protect it from getting worse. It's clearly just surface bubbles. It feels really solid still, so that's an easy fix. I'll take that over frame rust any day of the week. I have not tested the sunroof, FYI. I don't play around with sunroofs on 30-year-old cars with 260,000 miles. It's not worth the risk. But yeah, again, all original wheels. Everything looks pretty cool. So exterior wise, although the paint is baked and there is some surface rust, I give this car pretty high marks. The body's super straight, no big dents, no big collisions. That's awesome for a car this old. Let me pop you into the driver's seat area here. I want to show you the interior. Before I show you the interior, know that I've already super detailed it out. I'll have details of that in the next video. It was just so completely dirty and nasty in here. I could not stand it. So here we go. Keep in mind, guys, this vehicle has 260,000 miles. First thing I want to point out is look at this driver's seat. You ready for that bolster wear? Oh wait, there isn't any. Huh, no big gaping hole, no ripped apart, no foam sticking out. What's going on here? How crazy is that? 260,000 miles. One of my favorite things about this car. Also, look at the passenger seat. Everything is just looking gorgeous. Everything's factory, so you get this factory steering wheel, which looks like it's off a 2000s car, doesn't it? It has an airbag, cruise control, everything, cruise control, buttons on the wheel. It just looks like a modern steering wheel. Kind of crazy from like the 2000s or mid 2000s. So let's pop in here. Boop. So everything's pretty good in here. Gauges are pretty crazy. As you can see, it does show like 60,000 miles, which I think is pretty awesome. So that's been around a couple times at this point. So we're at 260K. No cracks in the dash, guys. How awesome is that to see in these old Ford products? Doors are holding up okay. A little separation there on the rubber vinyl, that happens. That looks good up there. But everything, glove box. Not a factory radio. They do have a Bluetooth radio in here. Kind of a bonus, I guess. Oh well. But everything else is here. Looks really good. Like I said, power everything. It does have sunroof controls right here. So I haven't tested it yet. I'm not really looking to get into that, to tell you the truth. But the biggest thing in here that you got to be excited about is that thing right there. 5-speed manual. And it's a pretty good one. It's pretty much the same as you're going to find in, I believe it's the same from the Mazda Protege. I think it was the 323 at the time, and it feels exactly like the Ford Escort GT that I had, so I'm sure it is a Mazda built gearbox, so I'm almost assuming that has to be the one. So it's in good shape. That's the reason. Every time I've seen one of these come up for sale, which is a very rare thing anyway, they have the auto, so I feel like the manual is ultra rare in these, and here it is. So overall, interior is pretty good. You know, you look at things like cracked dash, not present. We're looking at seats that are not torn up in the least. Looking good. Same thing with the back seats. Everything is just gourmet in here, and of course it looks a little better after I cleaned, but we're in a good spot, guys. It's looking pretty sweet. Awesome. Yeah, interior, high marks. Hopping out of the interior and going to look under the engine bay now.
We do need a bit of work under here, and I've only done kind of a preliminary cleaning. So I definitely need to get under here with my detail stuff. Let's see if I can open this up. This is the age from car hoods weighing way too much. And yes, I am balancing all this on my head. Good enough. All right, so under the hood, although it says Ford on it, don't be shocked. This is a Mazda 1.8 BP engine. So it's in a lot of stuff. The 323s got them. The Ford Escort GT had this exact same engine. It is a 1.8 liter rated at 127, 128 horsepower, somewhere in that region. Maybe down a couple ponies over the past 30 years, but you get the idea. This is exactly the same engine you find in the Mazda Miatas, the 94s and newer. Had this exact same engine, and it looks very familiar. If you're familiar with those cars, you can see that everything is the same. The cam angle sensor, even the intake. That's definitely a Mazda looking intake there. So all of this is Mazda supplied, designed, however you want to say it. I love the Ford valve cover though, it's super cool and in pretty good shape. So timing belt was done at, what are we at, 222,000 miles. So yeah, it's got another 20K on it, so it's still good. But overall, we don't need to do too much. The battle plan under here, oh, it has a newer battery too. We'll clean up some of that rust. It's really just clean the car up. The exterior needs a lot of loving, but under the engine bay here, we do have a couple issues. You can see a lot of oily grime here around the edge of the valve cover. Big old indicator of our favorite thing. And even though I've cleaned up around the cam angle sensor, you guys know what's in there, that little O-ring that loves to leak. So we're gonna take care of that, address those leaks. That's pretty easy. I also don't recognize these plugs. So I looked and it had Motorcraft spark plugs, which was cool, I guess. Kind of weird. It's a Ford, so I assume the owner thought, hey, Ford parts, but it's a Mazda. So we're gonna put our NGKs in here that we love to run. Our NGK plug wires. We'll do an oil change, all that kind of fun stuff. But just minor maintenance, really. Just to spark it up a little bit. Fresh plugs and wires are always nice. An oil change. And get rid of these leaks. But yeah, cool engine bay, right? Pretty easy to work on these. A little tight when you do timing belts and water pumps on these. You don't have a lot of space. Very similar to the Ford Escort GT that I did back in the day. So you gotta move some stuff around just to get enough space. Unlike the Miata where this engine is longitudinally located, this is a transverse application because it's front wheel drive, but hey, what a great power plant. And the power feels good. I'm gonna say for 260,000 miles, this car pulls exceptionally well, and I'm super excited to review it and see how it stacks up against the Escort GT. It should be a little slower, right? Having 4 doors and extra weight, but I think this thing's gonna move pretty good. So we'll see. Hopefully it's not too much faster than my 1.6 Miata. That's embarrassing when a sedan dusts you with just a slightly bigger engine, but hey, that's how it goes. So engine bay, pretty happy. Got to clean up under here and fix a couple things and we'll be good to go. What a cool power plant to be wedged into such a cool little sedan.